But during Cloak and Daggers, when you came up with the idea for Fright Night, right?
What happened was they came to me and they said, we want to do a remake of The Window. The Window was the juvenile version by Cornell Woolrich of Rear Window. And Cornell Woolrich wrote both books.
Right.
And it is the quintessential boy who cried wolf story. And I said, you can't do this. This is just, I've seen this too many times. It's too thin. And that's when I came up with the imaginary character, Jack Flag. I wrote an original, basically. Cloak and Dagger's an original. And, but I said, if you really want to do a kid looking out the window and seeing a murder in the house next door, and you want to make it fresh and you want to make it appealing to your younger demographic, have a mad horror fan look out his window and see a vampire chomping down in the house next door. And everybody thought I was nuts. I mean, they all thought I was crazy.
Really? It's such a cool idea.
I went in and took a meeting at Universal, Tom Mount, I think, and I couldn't convince them. Everybody thought I was crazy. Now, you got to remember, that moment in time, vampires were, excuse the expression, dead, dead, dead. The most recent vampire movie was Love at First Bite with George Hamilton,
right,
which is farce.
Right.
When they start doing farce, it lets you know that the genre is dead. It's exhausted. It has to be reinvented.
Right.
It needs a breather. You see that with
sure. I see it all the time.
See it all the time, and so I.
You didn't give up.
No, I couldn't get the idea out of my head because it was so delicious.
Yeah.
And really, so I sat down. I couldn't think how to. I kept saying, well, what would Charlie Brewster do if he had a vampire next door? Well, who would he go to for help? Nobody's ever going to believe him. And then I thought of all those horror hosts that I had grown up with.
Oh, yeah.
Vampira,
Vincent Price.
Well, they had. I grew up with what they called the Friday Night Frights. If you wanted to find a horror movie on TV back in the 60s, you had to go to Friday night, 11 o'clock on a local station, which would have the temerity to, have the guts to run one. And then you always had some horrible, tacky horror host.
Right.
And I mean, really, they did the sets with no money, flats falling down, people who were looking.
But that's the only way people would know to watch this horror movie.
Yeah. But
that's what the idea spawned.
Well, I said, that's
Peter Vincent.
If I was Charlie Brewster, I'd go to Peter Vincent. And when I had that, I couldn't get home fast enough to write. I mean, and I don't think I've ever had an writing experience like it, because I was literally falling on the floor and screaming with laughter.
Really?
And pounding my feet and my hands and saying, "This is so funny! I can't believe this." I mean, it was so ripe with, it was so amusing, ripe with possibilities, so much fun. I don't know what, and what it turned out to be is a love letter to horror fans everywhere.
Yeah,
and
that's what it is.
And I think what's given Fright Night the legs that it has is that horror fans recognize themselves in it.